I want to switch topics. Both sides, I think, are playing a bit of politics here on China. Last week signing a security deal with the Solomon Islands, which are a missile distance from Brisbane, and a deal that's going to let the Chinese Navy resupply there, and who knows what else China might then do. Here is the Prime Minister on Sunday.
We won't be having Chinese military naval bases in our region on our doorstep. And working together with our partners in New Zealand and, of course, the United States, I share the same red line that the United States has when it comes to these issues.
OK, the Prime Minister's drawn a red line, Michael Kroger, but what could the government actually do to stop that, China creating a base, when it couldn't stop the deal that might lead to it in the first place?
Well, I don't know there's much Australia and New Zealand can do militarily. It'll have to rely on the US if China opens a base there. And when people say, as Labor said, oh, you know, Scott Morrison's failed to stop this, it's a warning. It's basically a warning to China that the US, and the US have basically made this clear themselves, that they're not prepared to tolerate a Chinese base in the Solomons. But if Australia couldn't stop, I mean, if the US couldn't stop this deal, why would anyone think Scott Morrison or Maurice Payne could?
Because it's their job. It's their job.
It's the job of the, you know, oh, it's not our job. We are not, we decided many years ago, Stephen, we were not the deputy of the US. We're not the sheriff of the US in the Pacific. That was decided many years ago. But the interesting thing here is this, Andrew. Have a look at the next step. Will the Solomons now become a republic? It might seem a minor thing, but you saw in Barbados recently, big loan from the Chinese to the Barbados government. Out of the blue, the Chinese government 3 months later announced they were going to become a republic and move away from their relationships with Britain.
Oh, that's an interesting.
Will the same happen in the Solomons?
I didn't know that.
That would be a very, very big development, a very big development.
What a fantastic diversion. We're in Barbados in the Caribbean now.
Steve, I just want to pick you up on something. You said it was their job, the government's job, to stop the Solomons from signing this deal. Now, how can Labor, which that's the line Labor's been running, I got that, but how could it do that when the acting Labor leader, Richard Marles, said only a couple of years ago this?
If there is a Chinese military base in the Pacific, Australia at that moment is less safe. And the fact that we find ourselves asking these questions in this moment says everything about the failure of Scott Morrison in his managing of the relationships in the Pacific, and specifically Scott Morrison's failure to manage the relationship with Solomon Islands. Because of Scott Morrison's failures, Australians are less safe.
Apologies, Steve. That was Richard Marles today, I think, saying exactly what you've just said. They should have stopped
Absolutely
it. What I meant to
on.
say... yes, but hang on. Isn't that attack undermined by Marles saying last year, just last August, that Australia had no right to expect a set of exclusive relationships with Pacific nations? They are perfectly free to engage in whatever terms they choose with China, and disputing this would be resented, as the recent past has shown. Would be resented. They're free to engage and would be resented. Now you're saying you should have stopped it. How does that work?
Because you actually have to put the hard yards in.
No.
The US alliance has basically, we've got 3 jobs, okay? One is a couple of subs up near the Singapore Straits, okay? Pretty straightforward. The other is keep an eye on Indonesia and what's going on and let the Americans know. Our job's not to sort of interfere, it's just keep a wary eye. But the most important one, the US goes, it's your job. Look after the Pacific Islands. One real job in the ANZUS alliance.
What a lot of nonsense.
So you have to spend 9 years in government. No, it's very simple. Okay, 9 years. You've got the chance to try and build the relationships. You can't solve it 5 minutes from midnight by sending one person. You've actually got to do the job over 9 years.
Oh, nonsense.
Gentlemen,
incompetence.
I've got to cut you off. I've got to go. I've run out of time. But it's a bit hard to stop it when China is loading the pockets of those politicians with money. I don't know quite how you stop that when you're going to be determined to, take the cash. Michael Kroger, Steve Conroy, thank you both so much for your time.